Hey folks, welcome to the Market Internal Review for June 29th, 2023. Take a look here at SPY. We basically opened up right where we left off yesterday. We did have a slight gap down given that huge rip candle right at the end of yesterday's session. But we basically started right at that same price, resting on previous day's session TWAP price there at 435 and change, almost 436, with the add and vold bands starting green, and their trends were also mostly green once we got started here. The main thing I noticed was TRIN started us off at a balance with the tick average closures over zero trending up, and we did see kind of an imbalance marking here, and then TRIN disappeared altogether. This price here was incredibly volatile for any kind of directional type trade setups, maybe scalping if you were using the target levels from past days standard deviation prices here. The thing is, we had news. Powell, I think, gave a 2:30 morning speech, and there was some other data releases. So overall, just a really nasty open. And you can tell with the TWAP here, the bands were not spreading out at all. And if we look here at tick, we can see why. So TWAP requires tick extreme movement, or at least breaks of the neutral area here, this plus to minus 500 area. And we did receive a little bit of that, but just really not a lot. If you go back and look at other morning sessions, we're definitely picking up steam pretty quick right out of the gate. I mean, even here. This one here today, though, was just really volatile with all the data releases. We basically stay between previous days ending session TWAP price and a couple of the potential target price lines here from previous days standard deviations. So one thing I watched for was any kind of cooling off back to this TWAP price from yesterday, because I noticed every time we had a dip to lows, tick was not really in agreement. So we had some lows here, tick's not really buying it down here at the lows for a bearish sentiment. We're not even seeing it. Meanwhile, price is still staying up here. So these are relatively equal lows, but tick is making a lower low. Then we see this next extreme low here, but we made a higher low on SPY. So this pretty much told me that every time the downward movement of the New York Stock Exchange was hitting the markets, SPY was not feeling that and was probably apt to move upside more. So once we hit about late morning session here, almost to 11 o'clock, we get these negative ticks down here on, let's see, 10:54, 10:56, and 11. I'm on the 2-minute chart as always, and you can see this one, and then this one, and this one. They all made higher lows right as we reclaim the session TWAP. We're resting on a previous standard deviation level right here. We did not break below previous day's session TWAP. So this was a long entry. You had trims here and here. Meanwhile, trend's doing its thing, but our add and vold bands are agreeing with the bullish sentiment. Even though their trends are bearish and mixed signals, this is a good way to manage what sizing you put on. But this was a really good trade overall. Clean rules, management, everything. It started to fizzle out here, which was really interesting because everything went full bullish by the time we made it up here. But trend still showing a balance, so there's just not the right kind of volume and price movement in the entirety of the New York Stock Exchange, which is my reason that I believe this is why SPY is delivering price in such a kind of nasty way. We did have a rather extreme high around 900, right at this highest standard deviation line at almost 438. We pop above it, but we could not hold, and we had this really nasty sell. This is the same kind of thing I mentioned yesterday, where when TRIN is showing a potential balance with the yellow dots, you can almost expect a little bit more of a bing bong or zigzag type movement. So this was a reversion setup, strong break. We didn't get a retest before we actually went, so this is definitely a little bit more of a chase kind of scalp entry. Maybe on the lower time frames you could have gotten into a little bit of a retest, but it did revert all the way back to the mean, resting right around this price level that's projected from last day's ending data on TWAP. Then we bounce back, cut TWAP again, and head all the way to the opposite side. So if you were bearish and you saw a reclaim of this level down here, set your stops somewhere maybe up above the high a day, and you're targeting this level down here, you could have grabbed a 3 to 5 ratio trade here, $1.40 move. Definitely watching the tick here. You can see average tick closures come up, and while we do start to see some bullish tick, the high breaks up here aren't resulting in higher price. So all these highs here is all roughly this same area. So that's another tick divergence. Then you can see here, as tick closures heads back down, we get the crossover right here. Then we get this really hard sell. We cut below the TWAP. Then we continue all the way back down to this price level here, which is based on yesterday's ending standard deviation lines. So fascinating trades, and perfect example here of trend balance. We're getting a lot of this zigzag kind of action here, right? Just all day. So that's a trend balance. So towards the end of the day, we had a full bull flip on the add and the vold. We flipped our trends, and everything started to head back up. I noticed we broke the first standard deviation high at the end of the day, and we tested this this previous high price for the day, around 438 and change. We didn't quite make it all the way there, but we got pretty darn close. So overall, I think there's a bullish push in SPY. We're not ready to give up the momentum and the price we've built up this week. Whether or not we'll hold it, I'm not sure, but let's see here. We'll take a look at the weekly TWAP. Okay, weekly TWAP is something I'm incorporating a lot more of in the intraday price reading on SPY, and one thing I noticed was the perfect bounces of the first deviation zone on the weekly TWAP and testing that second deviation high price. We did it twice today. We kind of started there this morning. So this was really fascinating to see this, and even the previous week standard deviation prices were actually right where the price ended today. Perfect test right there of that. Quite compelling. And let's see, we'll take a look at the monthly TWAP. So monthly TWAP, first deviation high breaks. That's what we're going for today. Monthly TWAP's all the way back down to 432. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I highly doubt we're going to see that before the end of this month. 434.8 is weekly TWAP. And we'll go back. Session TWAP on SPY ended today at 437. We'll take a look at tick levels here. Yeah, so the tick highs that we printed right at the beginning of the day here, this cluster, that basically was lost immediately, which had me actually thinking that maybe we would see this previous TWAP price, which didn't happen. But we didn't really lose or break anything. We were stuck within these two previous day TWAP standard deviation lines. Once we broke that, though, you can see the decent amount of energy that we did have. And previous day's high price was, let's see, 437. Yeah, so you can just see the price struggling to stay above there the whole time. All right, let's go look at Qs. So Qs, incredibly more volatile, I believe, than SPY. I'm not seeing strength, however, in either direction. Right? Every time we had these really nasty sells, we also had choppy buys back up. You could call this one maybe a stronger buy up. We even had some crazy gaps in between 2-minute candles. I haven't seen that in a while. That's something I typically see in the Dow. So we had a couple of price lines from, let's see, this was Tuesday's high price. That was pretty much where we topped out today every time we tried to go above there. A lot more of the mean reversion type setup, but just really nasty price delivery. A couple TWAP rejections. This this price here is just nasty. But yeah, I mean, they tried to break the first standard deviation with SPY. Didn't quite happen. Russ, I saw, had a mostly sideways day. Yeah, they pumped hard right in the morning. They gapped up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so they gapped up and then just oscillated around whatever that price line is. I like that, whatever that is. Not sure. Probably got to go ahead and get rid of that line. But yeah, more zigzag right through that first standard deviation. So high statistical relevance to standard deviation. Look at the Dow. Wow, Dow was actually quite strong today. So notice yesterday was all struggle for Dow. Today was a really nice day actually. If you didn't get in here, you had one good opportunity to get in and really make something out of today. Take a look at the tick chart. Okay, tick chart, mostly neutral zone today. Not even a lot of wicks out to appear. We did get a cluster of that. We got one. One here, and we actually got two on the bear side, plus a couple of other good wicks. So fascinating stuff. On average, we had more closures. Yeah, more closures in the upper bullish neutral area, but then we had the majority bearish extremes versus the bullish extremes. So you could argue that that's fairly balanced, where the bulls were there, we had the upside on the whole, but only strong enough to be within that neutral zone. And then when the bears or the downward price action hit, it was strong enough to bring us to the extremes on tick, but it was quite seldom. And then the rest of the time, on average, we were not in the low neutral region here for tick. TRIN, pretty much garbage today. Here's why we had the balance. We're just stuck in between 0.76-ish and the 1. Couldn't really make any headway. Not much to talk about there. Ad was something I was watching today. I noticed it basically flatlined. We really didn't have much to write home about past that morning, that morning hard push that we had. No trend. We got a couple moments of trend, but overall nothing. Volume, good old volume. So the volume definitely was an uptrend. We had that high extreme bullish volume push, kind of like we had on Tuesday. So we did cross over the 200. We stayed above the 20 most of the time, but I don't know. Can we really say that SPY was in agreement with Vold today? I'm not sure I'm buying it. We couldn't even attain our previous high day price here from almost 1 o'clock, and we sure gave up quite a lot of price value based off of what I'm seeing here on Vold. It seems like an immense amount of volume to keep that price propped up on SPY or the New York Stock Exchange as a whole. So yeah, not sure. I've got mixed feelings about the end of this week. I think with the early closure on Monday, and then Tuesday's Independence Day here in the United States, I'm guessing that's probably why we have some of this chop. And I'm almost betting that tomorrow, Friday, and Monday is probably going to be quite lackluster, especially in this low VIX environment, unless we have some data release or announcement from Fed or somebody else that I don't know about. I'm not expecting much. So just taking a look here quickly at a couple stocks. So Microsoft, previous TWAP session price rejection. Boom, look at that. They rocketed all the way up. Interesting that this is Tuesday's. Yeah, Tuesday's session TWAP price. So that's from 2 days ago. And that's where Microsoft bounced. And then it bounced off of Wednesday's TWAP price back down. Fascinating. There's a lot of value in TWAP. But overall, pretty lackluster there, mostly flat. Nvidia continues to chop around and overall lose some value. I mean, obviously they're still way up from their earnings, but we're at what, 408? And I want to say they were up in 440. That was their high, I think, real close. So overall, not too great. Let's look at chips as a whole here. I know there was a violent sell on Micron from their earnings. I think they posted some losses, but yeah, I don't know. Chips as a whole here. Chips ahoy! They didn't really lose that much momentum. This was mostly a flat. Well, I guess they started up here, didn't they? 150 and they ended at 149. That's really not that big of a move. Yeah, mostly unaffected. We'll look at Tesla. I don't think we've looked at Tesla on here. Whoa. Okay. Quite the drop off here. Mostly aligned with Qs. That's what I see here. Interesting. A quick update here for anybody that's watching to the end. I did release an update to TWAP. I'll make a separate video about it, but effectively what I saw is on TradingView, the tick data, for whatever reason, they're publishing fake or incorrect data for extended trading hours. They actually post tick data in TradingView, but it's garbage. It's nothing. There's no ETH data for tick. And it was messing up the calculations, or maybe not messing them up, but it was adding to the calculations, and it was causing the standard deviation bands to be already expanded, but only on certain occasions based on price movement extended during extended hours. So I have published an update that allows you to lock TWAP to RTH data only. That will make some adjustments only to that first like 30 minutes of the morning session. It's not probably going to change the TWAP a whole lot. And at the end, what I've seen when I put the old version and the new version side by side, if you have the locked if you have the lock turned on, by the end of the day they're dang near the same. So it's just a little bit of an adjustment. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to my data analysis, so it was important for me to publish this. So just an update there. I did my best to add the description of what this option is, and it's disabled by default. So if you do run the new updated version of TWAP, it should look exactly the same as it currently does. So it's only for people that want to be as true as possible to what TIC has, which is only during RTH. So that's all the updates I have. Like I said, tomorrow I'm not really expecting a whole lot, but I'll keep watching. I'm definitely watching TRIN pretty close, and just kind of taking what I can with this kind of price. So hope you had a great trading day. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for tomorrow's video.